Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into a text that's been sparking conversations for millennia. Genesis chapter 2.
Talk about a deep dive right to the source of, well, a lot of things.
And I mean, you hear Genesis and you think, oh yeah, creation story. Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, we've heard it all.
Right.
But seriously, when was the last time you really sat with it, thinking about what it means for, I don't know, how we live our lives now?
Exactly. Like, how does this ancient text speak to us in the modern world?
That's what we're here to unpack. So Genesis chapter 2, setting the scene. God's just spent 6 days creating, like, everything.
Talk about a work week, right?
No kidding. But then comes day 7, and this is where things get interesting.
Yeah.
God takes a break.
And not just a quick coffee break. He actually blesses the seventh day, makes it holy.
Divine sanction to just chill. You know, in our go-go-go world, a whole day dedicated to rest, it's almost radical.
It is, isn't it? And it's a concept that you see echoed throughout history, this need for balance, for a rhythm of work and rest.
But I'm curious, like, in our always-on world, how do we even begin to approach that? I mean, I swear my phone never truly sleeps.
Right, and that's the challenge. But the thing about Genesis, it's not saying sleep or burnout. It's pointing to something deeper, wouldn't you say?
Like intentionally carving out time, not just for our bodies to recharge, but for, I don't know, our souls.
Exactly. Reflection, rejuvenation, maybe even a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves.
See, this is what I love about diving into these texts. You start with, okay, God rested, but it becomes about so much more.
It's like hitting the pause button on life so you can come back refreshed and ready for whatever comes next.
Easier said than done, but I like the idea. But speaking of getting things done, God doesn't leave Adam lounging in Eden forever.
No, he gives him a job. Work it and keep it are pretty powerful words, especially in the context of paradise.
Right, like even in this idyllic setting, there's this understanding that we have a role to play, a responsibility.
It's interesting, isn't it? Almost like the original concept of meaningful work, not just clocking in and out, but understanding our connection to something larger.
And it's not just any responsibility. He puts Adam in charge of the Garden of Eden. Talk about high stakes. This speaks to the idea of stewardship, which feels more relevant than ever.
Absolutely.
Makes you think about our relationship with the planet, right? Like, what does it really mean to work and keep something as complex and vast as, well, the environment itself?
It's a huge question, and one we're still trying to answer, right? But this idea of stewardship, being entrusted with something precious, it connects directly to conversations we're having now about conservation, sustainability, even ethical consumption. It's all connected.
Right, right. Like Genesis is giving us this framework for understanding that our role isn't just to take, but to care for, to nurture.
Precisely. It's a profound concept that goes way beyond tending a garden. It speaks to a much deeper interconnectedness between humanity and the natural world.
And that theme, that connection, it just keeps echoing, doesn't it? Even in this perfect paradise, with all this abundance, God looks at Adam and says, "It is not good for man to be alone."
It's such a fascinating statement because you'd think, right, perfect garden, all your needs met, loneliness wouldn't even be a factor. But it seems to suggest that we're wired for connection, for companionship.
Like it's a fundamental human need right up there with food and shelter. We need other people.
And notice how it doesn't specify what kind of connection. Obviously, it leads into the creation of Eve and the institution of marriage, but it's broader than that, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's like the foundation for every community, every friendship, every time we collaborate and create together.
Exactly. We thrive in relationship with others, whether it's the intimacy of a marriage, the camaraderie of a team at work, the shared purpose you find in a community. These connections are what make life, well, rich, meaningful.
And speaking of marriage, Genesis doesn't hold back on the drama, right? Creating Eve from Adam's rib. Talk about a power move. What do you make of that imagery?
It's definitely a powerful image of unity and connection. This idea of Eve being formed from Adam's rib, it speaks to a deep inherent bond. They're not just roommates who decided to, make it official.
Yeah, it's like they're two halves of a whole. Not identical, but designed to, like, fit together.
Exactly. And then the text takes it even further with that phrase, "they shall be one flesh." This goes beyond just sharing a life, raising a family, building a home together. It speaks to a level of, I don't know, intertwined existence it's beautiful, but also kind of daunting.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder about the dynamics of those really long-term relationships, the couples that seem to almost operate as this single unit.
There's a reason the idea of becoming one has resonated for so long across cultures. It speaks to the power, the potential of a truly committed partnership, the way two individuals can create something greater than themselves.
But Genesis chapter 2, it's not all sunshine and roses, is it? There's that one rule, that one little restriction that, well, changes everything. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Right. And that single instruction introduces an element of, I don't know, tension, risk, even in paradise. It definitely raises the stakes.
It's like the ultimate test, isn't it? Free
Yeah.
will, right there in the garden. God creates this perfect world, but then gives Adam and Eve a choice,
Yeah.
and the consequences? Huge.
It really is fascinating when you think about it, this juxtaposition of paradise and peril. They have everything they could ever want or need, yet they're one decision away from losing it.
And that one rule, that boundary, it speaks to something we still grapple with, don't we? Our choices.
Mm.
They have consequences.
Absolutely. It's a timeless principle. You see it playing out everywhere in our own lives on a global scale. It's woven into the very fabric of human experience.
Right, from the smallest decisions to the ones that feel, I don't know, life-altering. We're constantly trying to anticipate outcomes. It's both, like exhilarating and terrifying, you know?
Mm.
The weight of responsibility, the possibility.
It really makes you think, what if we all truly embrace that sense of agency, understanding our actions really do ripple outward?
The possibilities,
Right.
right? But also, wow, the pressure. It's easier to think, well, it's just me. What difference does it make?
It's a tempting thought, I get it. But Genesis seems to suggest that even in a world with billions of people, each individual choice carries weight.
It's like, I don't know, a giant tapestry or
Yeah.
something, right? And we're each adding these threads, these choices, and they all weave together to create the bigger picture.
What a beautiful way to put it. And it brings us full circle, doesn't it? We started with rest, the need to recharge, then our role as stewards of this planet, the power of human connection. And here we are, this idea of free will, choice, consequence, Genesis chapter 2. It really is an incredible blueprint.
It really is. And it makes you realize just how much wisdom is packed into these ancient verses. It makes you wonder what other gems are out there just waiting for us to, dust them off and really take a look.
That's the beauty of these texts, isn't it? The endless layers of meaning waiting to be discovered and rediscovered.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with one big question. If Genesis chapter 2 is our guidebook, how do we apply these principles today in our modern world? How do we become better stewards, more present partners, more intentional about how our choices, our actions shape everything around us? It's something to think about, isn't it? And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of, well, ancient wisdom. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.